Okay, so you see, we're going to continue with the chapter on error identification. Okay, so now we've done some material, we've seen some material on verbs, right? We've seen the tenses, we've seen subject verb agreement, we worked out the quiz on subject verb agreement. Now, as I said, we'll do the next chapter in this topic, which is about articles and prepositions. Right? Articles and prepositions. Now, see, why do we need to know about so many parts of speech? So many parts of speech, right? As you know, there are 8 parts of speech, right? Noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, adjective, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. You know, so when you have a sentence, right? The error can come in any of these parts of speech. Right? So that's why we looked at verbs, for example. We've also seen pronouns. We'll go over pronouns once more. Right? We'll go over pronouns once more. And now we're looking at prepositions and articles. Okay? So here, as you know, right? First we'll look at articles. As you know, there are 2 types of articles. One is called the definite article, and the second is called the indefinite article. Right? So the definite article is the word the or the. Right? Pronounced in 2 different ways. The and the. And the indefinite article is one of a or an, right? So now articles, they come under the general category of determiners, right? They come under the general category of determiners. Okay? Okay. So determiners, what do they show? They show the number of a noun. Number of a noun. Now, number means singular or plural, right? And nouns, they can be common nouns, for example. For example, you can say table. Now, number is shown by the S, plural, right? Or if it's singular, then it's shown by the determiner specifically the indefinite article a. So determiners show number of nouns, right? So we can say a table, a boy, a girl, etc. Now what's the meaning of a here? A means, okay, all of these mean one, right? A means one. Similarly, you have, let's say, here we're looking at how to use an. So we have orange, right? Or ink pot, or umbrella, right? Orange or ink pot or umbrella. Now these are what? These are common nouns. See? Table, boy, girl, orange, ink pot, umbrella. They're all common nouns, right? And so, if it's orange, then we'll say an. If it's ink pot, also we'll say an. If it's umbrella, we say an. Now, you notice that we're using a before some words and before others. So, what is the main difference between, when do we use a and when do we use an, right? So, see, we have the 26 letters of the alphabet from A to Z, right? And these 26 are divided into, okay, vowels, okay, and consonants, right? So we have vowels and consonants, right? Now here you notice table, boy, girl. These are consonants, right? So before a word beginning with a consonant, we use a. But notice these: orange, ink pot, umbrella. They begin with a vowel, right? They begin with a vowel. Before a word beginning with a vowel, we use an, right? So both a and an show the singular. They are singular, right? Now, here we're looking at the spelling. We're looking at the spelling. Spelling means table. T-A-B-L-E. T is a consonant. Boy. B-O-Y. B is a consonant. Etc. We're looking at the spelling. Here also we're looking at the spelling. Orange. O-R-A-N-G-E. Inkpot. I-N-K-P-O-T. Inkpot. Right? We're looking at the spelling. But while spelling is a guide, when to use a, when to use an. Spelling is a guide, 99% of the guide. The main rule is, when do we choose a and when do we choose an? It should depend on the sound. Sound means a pronunciation. So for example, if I say university, okay? University professor, right? University professor. Now, here you see you have university. So this is a vowel. So according to this rule, you will use an. But notice how you pronounce university. It is actually Y-O-U or Y-U. It is a consonant, right? So it is a university professor, right? So 99% of, okay? The main rule is it should depend on the sound, the way you pronounce it, right? And then we have this honest person, right? Here, honest person. Here you have a consonant, H, right? So you might be tempted to use A. But if you listen carefully, you are not saying honest, ha. H is not being pronounced. You're saying honest. So it is a what? A vowel. So we will use an, right? An honest person, right? So this is how you differentiate between A and an, right? Now I'll sum it up, okay? Okay? A or an are used before singular common nouns right? To indicate the singular. A or an are used before singular common nouns to indicate one, right? So, the remaining rule also. A is used before words that begin with consonant sound, and an is used before words that begin with vowel sound. Now, you see, it need not always be a common noun. For example, I can say, okay, round dining table. Now here you have a couple of adjectives. Okay, round dining table. This is a consonant, so you will use a. Right? A brown dining table. But suppose you have one more adjective. Old browning table. Now this becomes what? This is a vowel, so we will use an. Right? It depends on this word, not on this word. Depends on the number of adjectives or whatever modifier you have here. Right? Okay. So this is about indefinite articles. So that leaves the definite articles, right? Definite article. Now, okay? So, definite article. Now, if you look at the name of the group, indefinite, definite. Definite means it's specific. Now, I'll just illustrate this. I'll say, go and get a doctor. Go and get a doctor, right? The doctor lives in the next street. I think this is the example given in Brennan Martin. I asked you to purchase that book, Brennan Martin. Okay? I think this is the same example given. Okay, go and get a doctor. The doctor lives in the next street. Right? Now, here, why do we use a here and why do we use the here? Right? See, go and get a doctor. Okay? You can also look at it like this. You can also look at it like this. A or an in the sense of any. Right? Go and get a doctor means any doctor. But here it becomes definite. Who is the doctor we want? The doctor who lives in the next street. Right? So here, that's why it's called definite. That's why they are called definite and indefinite article. The makes it definite. A or an makes it indefinite. Okay, general. Okay. Now, when do we actually use, definite and indefinite articles? Definite articles rather. So we have, let's say, we use them before nouns, right? We use them before nouns. Nouns can also be grouped under countable and uncountable nouns. So, for example, all the things we saw, all the nouns we saw. For example, apple, was it? Apple, boy, girl. These are all countable nouns, right? So we use, we use a or an. But what about the uncountable? We have air is an uncountable noun, wheat is an uncountable noun, rice. And so we have a number of uncountables. Now, before countable nouns, you can use a, and, or the. An apple, a boy, the apple, the boy. But before uncountable, you cannot use a and an. We have to use only the. Right? So, the is used before singular and plural countable and uncountable, right? So the is used before all, right? Singular and plural, countable and uncountable. A or an is only used before countable, singular, right? So now we'll look at the exercises, right? We have to do some exercises to know how these rules are used. Did you follow all this? As some of you are late, I told you we're recording it, so just try to keep quiet, don't talk too much. Okay? So now these are most of the rules about articles. So now we'll look at prepositions, right? So prepositions, the word preposition is made up of two parts. One is pre. Okay? Pre means before. Pre means before. And position is position, right? So what is the position of a preposition in a sentence? The position of a preposition in a sentence is before a noun. Before a noun, right? Nouns, as you know, can come in the beginning or end of a sentence. Ram has a book, the book belongs to Ram. Nouns can come in the beginning or end of a sentence. So, preposition can come in the beginning or end of a sentence before the noun, right? So here, see, if I say, the cat sat on the mat. The cat sat on the mat, right? So here you have a noun, mat. So this is an article we just saw. So this will be the preposition. On is the preposition. Now here it's coming at the end. Remember what you call the noun which comes at the end of a sentence called, it's said to be in the objective case. Okay. Cat is said to be in the subjective case, mat is said to be in the objective case. So we have a noun which comes in the objective case. Look before that and you have a preposition. Similarly, you can take another example. The book is in the bag, right? So again you have a common noun. Before that, if you look, you find in is the preposition, right? In is the preposition. Now, okay, now as you can see, they have meaning. If I say the book is on the bag, the book is on the bag is different from saying the book is in the bag, right? So prepositions are small words. Okay? Usually they consist of single syllables, right? But they have meaning. If you change the preposition, the meaning will change. Meaning of the sentence will change. Okay, as we saw just now. The book is in the bag, the book is on the bag. So then this, grouping of preposition into single syllables and multi-syllables. What is a syllable? A syllable is a part of a word. For example, if I say, I have a preposition like extemporization. Now, here we have extemporization. How many syllables is that? 6. Right? So this consists of 6 syllables. Right? Okay. So a syllable is, what you can pronounce in one inhalation and exhalation. That's the actual definition, scientific definition. It is the part of the word you can pronounce in one chest pulse. Chest pulse means inhalation and exhalation, right? So this word consists of 6 syllables, right? Now, many prepositions are single syllables, right? So they are called simple prepositions, right? So simple prepositions are words like at, in, on, by, do, from, okay? Like this, right? So we have prepositions which are simple, right? They consist of one syllable. Then we have prepositions which are compound. Compound means made up of more than one syllable, right? For example, you have above, right? And above, and above, right? And there's a around, right? So these are compound prepositions. Then we have one group, the last group, which is called the phrase preposition. A phrase is a group of words, right? So we have together with, right? Along with, right? In accordance with. So these are phrases. This phrase consists of 2 words. This also consists of 2 words. In accordance with. It consists of 3 words. So we have simple prepositions, compound prepositions, and phrase prepositions. Okay? So this is a grouping or classification of prepositions. Right? Now, to look at the meanings of some prepositions. To try to understand the meanings of some very common prepositions. Okay, for that I'll draw, or rather I will try to draw a table, a box, and a ball. Right? So I used to draw when I was young, but now the lines go orange. Okay, so you see, you have a table, you have a box, and you have a ball. We say the ball is in the box, right? Now, if we come from outside to inside, then we say, I put the ball into the box, right? We say the ball is on the table, right? And if it comes from elsewhere onto the surface, we say I put the ball onto the surface, onto the table, right? Here we say the ball is near the box, near. But here we say the ball is next to the box or beside the box, next to or beside, right? Then we say the ball is under or below the table. Ball is under or below the table. And we say the ball is above or over the table. Right? So these are the meanings of some common prepositions. Now what about some more? See, if you go lengthwise along the road, if you go lengthwise along the road or a riverbank or a seashore, if you go lengthwise, you're going along. Right? But if you go breadthwise, you're going across. Right? Across. Right? Then you can go around a circle. You can go around a circle. Right? Or you can go up, or you can come down some stairs, up the stairs, down the stairs, right? And you have, let's say, this is a couple of goalposts, and you put the ball, okay, between, right? Between the goalposts, between means the middle of two. In the middle of two. But suppose you have a child, right, is walking, okay, among its friends. In the middle of more than two is among, right? Between is in the middle of two, among is in the middle of more than two, right? Between and among, right? Then, okay, so here you have behind, the board is behind me, right? Or we say the window is in front of me, right? Is in front of, in front of. That's a phrase preposition. Behind is a compound preposition. Behind, right? So we have a number of prepositions which you can understand from the context. Okay? Let me see. So we start from Bangalore and you go to Mysore, right? So this is from and to. From Bangalore to Mysore, right? From start shows a starting point, right? Starting point means it can be a place like Bangalore, from Bangalore. It can also be a time from 9 a.m. Place and time from 2. 2 can also show a place. To Mysore to 6 p.m. Okay, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. something like that. Right? So we have from and to. Right? And then we have what are called troublesome prepositions. Troublesome. So among these we have these two. Beside and besides. Beside and besides. Beside, as we just saw, means by the side of. Right? By the side of. But besides, if you add the S, right? So we can say besides the captain, 2 other players scored a century. Besides the captain. That means what? Besides means in addition to. In addition to. In addition to the captain, 2 other players scored a century. Right? Then we have these two, for and since. Right? Now, you say, I've been waiting since 9 p.m. I've been waiting since 9 p.m. Now, okay. So, with the period, so here we have to understand when do we use for, when do we use for, and when do we use since. Now, to know this, you have to know the difference between points of time, okay? Points of time and periods of time. Points of time and periods of time, right? So what is a point of time? So we have 9 a.m. is a point of time, right? So is Wednesday. Wednesday is also a point of time, right? Then we have 1994. 1994 is a point of time. With points of time, we use since. Been waiting since 9 a.m., since Wednesday, since 1994. But what about periods of time? What are periods of time? You have an English period, French period, and so on and so forth. They are usually, they're taken as this. This is a period of time. Okay? What are examples of periods of time? So, for example, 1 hour. Right? So, I've been waiting for 1 hour. With periods of time, we use for. Right? Then, let's say 2 weeks. Right? 2 weeks. Okay? So, it's been promised for 2 weeks, right? It's a period of time. So you have to understand when to use points of time. We have to understand what are points of time and periods of time to determine when to use for and since. So there are a couple of other, troublesome provisions. We won't go into all of them, right? So these are the main, very commonly held, very commonly used, right? Very commonly used prepositions, right? So now let us try to work out some exercises, right? We'll try to work out some exercises, right? For that, we'll have to go to Google, right? So let me see. Go to Google, right? Then we'll type in articles, quizzes. Articles, space, quizzes. Articles, space, QUIZZES. Articles, okay? So we have this one, ProProfs, right? Articles, quiz with answers. Okay? Okay? So we can work out the exercises, right? Okay? So good morning everybody. Today we are going to do a part on question forms in grammar, right? Question forms have at least 3 parts. One is question tags, framing question tags. The second is the WH questions. And the third is, actually it's called framing questions. Okay? So, first we'll take up question tags. Okay? Now, we'll see what a tag is later, but for this topic, that is question forms, we need to know a bit of background, right? The background is we need to know about pronouns and verbs, right? So the pronouns are these: I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, right? Okay? So these are called personal pronouns. We have gone into pronouns in detail a bit earlier, right? So here what we need to keep in mind is that we need to keep these pronouns in mind. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. Out of these, we see that these on the left, I, you, he, she, it, they're singular, and these on the right, that is we, you, they are plural, right? Singular means they refer to one. I am one, I is singular. You referring to one person is singular. He, she, it are singular. Similarly, if I say we, it is plural. Both of you, it is plural, and they is also plural, right? So we need to keep that in mind. The next topic we need to have a bit of background is about verbs, right? Now we've gone into verbs also in some detail earlier. Now we'll just brush up, right? So verbs are divided into 2 groups: main verbs and auxiliary verbs, right? Examples of main verbs are sit, stand, walk, okay, etc. Right? Sit, stand, walk, talk, etc. Right? Now you can quite clearly see that these have meaning. If I say sit, you know what it means. If I say stand, you know what it means. If I say walk, you know what it means. Talk, run, eat, sleep, all these have meaning. They are main verbs. Right? The second group of verbs we need to consider are the auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs are divided into two: primary auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries. The primary auxiliaries, that's a name, right? It's the name of this group. The primary auxiliaries are forms of have, do, and be. They're also known as the have forms, do forms, and be forms. The have forms are have, has, had, right? The do forms are do, does, did. Now, these are very common words, right? Only thing, right now we're classifying them as primary auxiliaries, right? And the be forms are is, am, are, was, were, right? So these group of verbs is called the primary auxiliaries. Next we have the modal auxiliaries. The modal auxiliaries are can, could, will, would, shall, should, may, might, must, need, ought to, and dare. Right? So these are called the modal auxiliaries. Right? Now, we need to keep one of the characteristics of verbs in mind. That characteristic is the tense. Right? Tense means time. So if I say sat, it is the past tense of sit. If I say stood, it is the past tense of stand. If I say walked, it is the past tense of walk. Right? So all the main verbs have present. Okay. So the main verbs have tense. Sat is the past tense of sit. Stood is the past tense of stand. Walked is the past tense of walk, etc. All the main verbs are present and past tenses. These also have tenses, right? If I say he is and I compare it with he was, you see that was is past tense, is present tense. And if I say they are and I compare it with they were is past tense, are is present tense. Similarly, I did is past tense, do and does are present tense. Was and were are past tense, are and is and am are present tense. Had is past tense, have and has are present tense. Right? So these have tenses, right? The primary auxiliaries. Now we come to the part on question tags. Now, what do we mean by a tag? You have an assertive sentence like he is here. We have an assertive sentence like he is here. If you add a tag at the end, it will become a question, right? So what you are doing is you are changing an assertive sentence into a question. A question is also called an interrogative sentence, right? So how do we form the tags? How do we form the tags? Now, to understand this, we need to know that there are two types of sentences. One is the positive sentence, the other is the negative sentence. The negative sentences, they have the word not. Okay? They have the word not. For example, he isn't here. This is a negative sentence because this word is not, right? Negative sentence, right? And a positive sentence doesn't have the word not, okay? So, in this sentence, we have an auxiliary. In these two sentences, we have auxiliary. The auxiliary is. Now, how do we form the tag? If the sentence is positive, take the auxiliary, make it negative, and add the pronoun form of the subject. Now, this is the subject. The subject is already a pronoun, right? Now, what do I mean by pronoun form of the subject? Let's take this example. Instead of he, if I say Ram is here, right? Now this sentence is positive, it has an auxiliary. Take the auxiliary, make it negative. The pronoun form of the subject, the pronoun form of Ram is he, right? Now, suppose this was Sita. Sita is here, right? So, again, you have an auxiliary, take the auxiliary, make it negative, right? Add the pronoun form of the subject. The pronoun form of Sita is she, right? So, for any noun, any given noun subject, you can substitute one of these pronouns. You can substitute one of these pronouns, right? So, this is for a positive sentence. Now, if the sentence is negative, and it has an auxiliary, the sentence has an auxiliary, take the auxiliary, make it positive, add the pronoun form of the subject, right? We'll look at two more examples. One is positive, the other is negative, right? This is the auxiliary, right? He can read, take the auxiliary, make it negative, and add the pronoun form of the subject. And the second sentence is negative, take the auxiliary, make it positive, and add the pronoun form of the subject, right? Now, this set of sentences has an auxiliary. Here it is, here it's can. Remember the auxiliaries are these, right? Suppose a sentence doesn't have an auxiliary. Now, in these three, the verb is a main verb. Here it is goes, here it is went, here it is go. These three are main verbs. So how do we form the question tag, right? To form the question tag for these, we need to use a form of do, right? See, the do forms are do, does, and did, right? So the do forms are do, does, and did. Now, how do we choose between them and how do we form them? Now remember, did is past tense. I did is, if I say I did my homework yesterday, it is in past tense. Now out of these three, went is past tense. Now, this is a positive sentence. It doesn't have a negative word. If the sentence is positive, take did and make it negative. Right? And add the pronoun form of the subject, right? Okay? Now, here between these two, this one has the S. If the verb ends in S, use does. The sentence is positive, take does and make it negative. Add the pronoun form of the subject. This one doesn't have the S, use do, right? So this will become don't and this is they. Ram goes there, right? This ends in S, so it becomes doesn't he, right? Ram went there. This is past tense. Didn't he? Ram and Sham go there. It's plural. It's a plural subject. So use they. Right? So this is basically how you form.
Positive sentences, right, sir?
These are positive sentences.
Negative sentence example.
Okay, so that actually, see, negative sentences, right? So keep this in mind. I'll erase this part, right? Now, okay. negative sentence is also similar to this. Okay? Forming of negative sentences is also similar to this. Now, here we have Ram goes there. Now you want to form the negative of this, right? Ram, okay, goes there. Now, you want to form the negative. Let us say, we'll take the other two also. Ram went there, right? And Ram and Shyam go there, right? Now, okay? So you have to add the question tag. Now we want to make this negative. Again, how do you make it negative? You have to use a do form. One of do, does, or did, right? Okay. So see, Ram goes, it has S. Ram does not go there. Right? Now this is past tense. Ram did not go there. Right? And this is plural, so we'll say Ram and Shyam do not go there. Right? So this is how we form the negative. Right? Why? Because, see, let's suppose you have a sentence. He is here. We'll take the same sentence.
Yeah.
Now, where do you have the negative word? You add it after the auxiliary. He is not here. Right? So, in all these sentences, you see you have an auxiliary. Right? You add the negative word after the auxiliary. Right? Now, okay? One point you need to keep in mind is, see, here it is goes, but here it is does not go. Here it is went, but here it is did not go. So here it is go, but here it is do not go. Now what does it mean? Once you bring in a do form, then what happens? You add a main verb, right?
Yeah.
You add a main verb.
Base form.
The main verb is always in what is called
Base form.
base form,
No.
right? So, for example, go is in the base form, right? The main verb is in the base form. What do you mean by the base form? The base form doesn't have any suffixes, right? Does not have any suffixes, right?
And it will be V1 form only.
It will be in V1 form, right?
No,
V1.
V2,
Okay,
V3.
so it is go and goes.
Present participle.
This is the base form, right? Okay.
And no
Now-
suffixes.
No suffix, right? So it doesn't have a suffix, right? Now, how do you form the question tag for this? Ram goes there. Now you have an auxiliary, right? So take the auxiliary and make this is a negative sentence. Ram does not go there. Make it positive,
Does.
right? Does he, right? Now, Ram did not go there. It's a negative sentence. Did he, right? Ram and Shyam do not go there. Do they, right? So, okay. So these are the question tags for the negative sentence, and these are the question tags for the positive sentences without an auxiliary. If the sentences only have a main verb, this is how you form the question tags. Now, just as a sort of a little bit of detail, okay? Now, see, here, so we can examine it like this, right? Now, you know that a verb which has S or ES. For example, go plus ES, right? It is described as singular, right? It's described as singular. And a verb which does not have an S or ES, it is described as plural, right? This is the topic of subject-verb agreement. So see, Ram goes there. It is singular. Subject is singular. Verb is singular. Okay. So this one. Okay. Does is also singular, right? Does is also singular because it has the yes, right? They go there. Okay. So this is. So see. Ram goes there. It is singular. Subject is singular. Verb is singular. Okay. So this one. Okay. Does is also singular. Right? Does is also singular because it has the yes. Right? They go there. Okay. So this is plural. This is plural. So do is plural. Right? Past tense, no question of subject verb agreement. Right? Okay? So this is the bit of detail. So that is it about question tags. Okay? Thank you, Kusuma and Chaitra. Okay, good afternoon everybody. Okay? So we're going to continue with the grammar for today. Okay. Now, in the chapter on error identification, you have a topic called subject-verb agreement. Subject-verb agreement, right? Now, this topic will go over some of the rules. Okay, we've gone over some of the information related to this topic. Today, we'll go over some of the rules. Okay, a few rules associated with this topic. Now, where will you find the rules? If you go to Google search, yes, go to Google search and type in subject-verb agreement. Okay? Now, in the search result, you come to this one. Warden University, the third or second search result. So you have Warden University, right? So if you click on that, you'll find the rules. We'll go over them, right? So remember, we'll start with the basic rule of subject-verb agreement. The basic rule of subject-verb agreement, right? So the basic rule is, if the subject is singular, the verb should be singular. Okay? But if the subject is plural, the verb should be plural. Right? So if the subject is singular, the verb should be singular. The subject is plural, the verb should be plural. Now, let's see. First, I'll tell you how to identify singular verbs. Right? Singular verbs end with the suffix s. Singular verbs end with the suffix s. Examples of these are is, has, does, reads, etc. Right? Singular verbs end with the suffix s. Okay. And what about plural verbs? Plural verbs do not end with s. Plural verbs do not end with s. Examples are have, do, read, write, etc. See, have and did, eat, do and don't read. So, this is the basic way in which you can identify singular and plural words, right? So, here, let's look at the examples given on this website. Okay, so for this rule, the subject is singular, the verb must be singular too. Right? What is the example? She writes every day. Okay, this is the example given. She writes every day. Now this one, she is called the subject of the sentence. Right? She is singular. The subject is singular, the verb must be singular. So it requires the S. Right? That is the first example. That is the first example given on the website. Right? So second one, the subject is plural, the verb must also be plural. This rule. If the subject is plural, the verb must also be plural. What is the example given? They write every day. Right? This is the example given. So, they is plural, write is plural because it does not end in S. Right? So, now this is the basic rule. Okay? So next we'll look at some of the other rules. So remember, if this verb ends in S, it is taken as singular. It does not end in S, it is taken as plural. Okay? Now, third rule that is stated on the website. Okay? The third rule states when the subject of the sentence is composed of two or more pronouns, when the subject of the sentence is composed of two or more nouns or pronouns connected by and, use a plural verb. So what is the example given? We have the student, okay, and the members, right? Student and the members write every day. Okay, now this is the example given, almost, right? It's a paraphrase. So here, what does the rule say? The subject of the sentence. What is the subject of the sentence? I'll underline it. This is the subject of the sentence. Okay? When the subject of the sentence is composed of two or more members. Okay? Two or more nouns. This is one noun, this is the second noun. So see, now I'll read the sentence, the rule again. When the subject of the sentence is the student and the members. When the subject of the sentence is composed of two or more nouns. Now, the student is one noun and the members is the second noun. It's composed of two or more nouns or pronouns. It can be pronouns, he and they, right? Composed of two or more nouns or pronouns connected by and. So this is the connecting word. This is a conjunction. When the subject of the sentence is composed of two or more nouns connected by and, the verb is plural. Right? So let's suppose there's one student and four members. So this makes it 5. So it's plural, so the verb should be plural. The third rule, right? So I am paraphrasing here because actually what the example says is the doctoral student and the committee member, isn't it? As you can see on the website, the doctoral student and the committee members. Nevertheless, it's the almost same. Okay, so this is the third rule, right? This is the third rule. Now coming to the next one, when there is one subject and more than one verb, the verbs throughout the sentence must agree with the subject, right? So first I'll write the sentence, then we will, okay, go over the rule, right? Interviews are one way to collect data and allow researchers, okay, to gain understanding of participants. Okay. So again I'm paraphrasing the example, right? So what does the rule say? When there is one subject, there is one subject in this sentence. The subject is interviewed. When there is one subject and more than one verb. Now the first verb is are, the second verb is allow, right? When there is one subject and more than one verb in the sentence, the verbs throughout the sentence, must agree with the subject, right? So the subject interviews is plural, the first verb is plural, the second verb is also plural, right? So repeat it once more. When the sentence has one subject and more than one verb, the verbs throughout the sentence must agree with the subject, right? So suppose this was not interviews, okay? Suppose it's not interview, suppose this was an interview. Now this becomes singular. An interview is one way to collect data and allows researchers to gain understanding of participants. Now what happens? The subject becomes singular, the verbs become singular. This is singular because it ends in S. This is also singular because it ends in S. Right? So that is the, okay, that is the fourth rule. Right? Okay. Now we come to the fifth rule. First I read it. The rule says, when a phrase comes between the verb and the subject, remember that the verb still agrees with the subject, not the noun or pronoun in the phrase following the subject of the sentence. Okay, now that is the rule. Now I'll write down the given example. Right? The first given example is the student as well as the committee members is excited. You can write down a couple more others. Another example given on the website. Okay? Strategies. Okay? That the teacher uses to encourage class participation. Okay? Include using more groups and clarifying right? Okay. Now, these are the two examples. I'll number them to make it clear. Now I'll read out the rule. What is the rule? When a phrase comes between the subject and the verb. Now, the subject of the first sentence is the student. Okay, the subject of the sentence is student. And we have a phrase here. The phrase I'll put it in brackets is as well as the committee members. Okay. When a phrase comes between the subject and the verb, this is the verb. The verb still agrees with the subject, not with this, not with the noun or pronoun in the phrase, right? It does not agree with this noun. It agrees with the subject. So what you must be careful about is to identify the real subject of the sentence. Okay? Okay. So this is the subject, it's singular, it's also singular. Okay? Now,
how do you identify
how do I identify?
the subject in
In these kind of sentences, one way is, how do you identify subjects in these kind of sentences? One way is the subject will usually come in the beginning, right? And the subject will usually be a noun or a pronoun. Okay, it will be a noun or a pronoun. Okay, so let's see how many nouns there are in this sentence. So the student is one noun, it's a common noun, and members is the other common noun. Now, as you can see, the student is a singular noun, members is a plural noun. Now, the rule states when a phrase like this, as well as the committee members, when a phrase comes between the subject and the verb will still agree with the subject, right? So, how do you identify a subject? Usually it will come in the beginning and it's a noun or a pronoun. Okay. Now in this sentence, second sentence, okay, let's identify all the nouns. Strategies, that is the name of a plant, the name given to plants. Strategies is a noun, right? It's a common noun. So it is plural. Because it comes in the beginning, a noun comes in the beginning, this is the subject, right? And this one, that the teacher uses to encourage class participation. So this is the phrase that comes between the subject and the verb. Okay. Now as you can see, this noun is plural. So this verb does not have the S. Right? Now, again, within the phrase itself, right? Within the phrase itself, you have a noun. Now, this is a noun. It's a common noun. It is singular. But this subject agrees with this verb agrees with this subject. Teacher uses to encourage. So, this is the structure of this sentence. So, I'll repeat the rule. When you have a phrase which comes between the subject and the verb will still agree with the subject, not with the noun or pronoun in the phrase. Okay? Is it clear? Okay. So there are only, I think, few more rules, right? There are only a few more rules. Now, the next rule is, okay, the next rule is, I'll read the rule first. The sixth rule on this website, Walden University. Sixth rule, when two or more singular nouns or pronouns are connected by or not, use a singular verb. Okay, that is the rule. Now write down the example. Okay, so this is the example given on the website. Now read the rule again. When two or more singular nouns or pronouns connected by or not, use a singular verb. Now, when two or more singular nouns, so this is the first singular noun. Shared person is the first singular noun. The CEO is the second singular noun. When two or more nouns or pronouns, singular nouns or pronouns, are connected by or it can be connected by not. When two or more singular nouns or pronouns are connected by or not, the verb will be singular. Okay. So approve is approves, right? So approves ends in S, so it is singular, right? Okay. So these are two singular nouns, okay? Now, the seventh rule, when a compound subject contains both a singular and a plural noun, okay? When a compound subject contains both a singular and a plural noun or pronoun joined by or not, the verb should agree with the part of the subject closest to the verb. It is also called the rule of proximity. Now I'll read the rule, I'll write down the example, and then we can understand with the help of the example, right? So the example given is the student or the committee members write every day. Okay? Okay. This is version 1. This is version 2. The committee members or the student writes every day. Okay, so these are the two versions of the example. Now read the rule again. When a compound subject contains both a singular and a plural noun. Now this is called a compound subject. I'll underline the compound subject in both the sentences. I'm underlining the compound subject in both the sentences. These are the compound subjects. When a compound subject contains both the singular and the plural noun. Now see, in this sentence, this is a singular noun and this is the plural noun. This is singular and this is plural. But in this sentence, this noun is plural and this noun is singular. Right? So I'll read it again. When a compound subject contains both singular and a plural noun or pronoun, it can also be pronoun, okay, joined by or not. Now here, these two are joined by or. They can as well be joined by nor. Okay? They can as well be joined by nor. The verb should agree with the part of the subject closest to the verb. So the verb, okay, here the verb is right, here the verb is right. The verb should agree with the part of the subject. Part of the subject. This is a full subject, it should agree with the part of the subject which is closest. So this is closest. So this one is closest, so this is plural, so this is plural. Now, this one is singular, this closest, this is singular. Right? Okay? Closest to the verb. What is this called? This is called the rule of proximity. Rule of proximity. Proximity means it's close. Right? The verb agrees with the closest subject. Okay. So, two more or three more rules, right? Two or three more rules, right? We'll skip a few, right? No, we won't skip a few. We'll do the next one. This is the 8th rule. Okay? First, I'll read out the 8th rule. This will be the last rule we're going to do for today's class because the time constraint, right? So, I'll read out the last rule for today's class. And you can see the 8th rule on the website says, the words and phrases each one, either, neither, everyone, everybody, anyone, anybody, nobody, somebody, someone, and no one are singular and require a singular verb. Okay, first the list set, right? So it says each one, okay, either, neither, okay, then everyone, okay, everybody, okay, anyone, anybody, okay, nobody, then somebody also, somebody, someone, and no one. Okay, now when the sentences have these words, right? When the sentences have these, the rule says, okay, these are all singular. These are all singular. For example, if I say anyone, let's suppose you have a group of students, let's say. A group of students in a class. Now if I say has any one, how many do I mean? One. So this is singular, right? Now, what about everyone? Now, if you take the whole group as one, this is one group. So this is also singular. You can also see this word, one. So one means singular, right? And what about everybody? Everybody means, again, everyone or everybody is one group. Anyone or anybody, this is also singular. Nobody actually means nobody, zero, but it's also singular. Somebody has somebody, is also singular, right? Then no one. So this word is indicates singular. Okay. So all these are singular and they take a singular verb. For example, you can say has, I take the verb like has. Has emptiness is singular. Has anyone done their assignment? Has everyone done their assignment? Has someone done their assignment? Has anybody or nobody, somebody, have they done that? Has somebody done their assignment? So all these are singular. This is also singular. So the verb should be singular. Now what about these? Each. If I say each of the children, okay? Each one of the children. Either of the children, neither of the children. Now, all these make the word. So let's suppose there are, let's say, four children, right? When I say each, it means one at a time. So this requires a singular verb. Okay, each one of the children also requires a singular verb. When I say either of the children, what do I mean by either? There are only two children. Out of those two, you are taking one. So the verb is singular. Right? Either means out of two, you are taking one. The verb is singular. Neither actually means zero, but actually the verb is also singular. Right? So what do we see here? We see that, I'll read the rule again. The phrases each one, either, neither, everyone, anyone, everybody, anyone, anybody, nobody, someone, somebody, and no one are singular in a singular verb. So these are a few of the rules found on this website of Walden University on the topic of subject-verb agreement. But really, what you'll get in the exam is far, far simpler than this. Much simpler than this. What you'll be given is one short sentence. It won't be anything like this. It won't be anything like this. You'll have one verb which ends in S, the other will not end in S. The verb which ends in S is singular, the other is not singular. You have to decide whether the subject is singular and choose the singular or plural verb as the case may be. Okay? So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, we are talking about the concept of number, right? Number grammar means singular and plural. Okay? Singular and plural. Okay? Now, you see, this topic, which as I said, is called subject-verb agreement, right? The basic rule of subject-verb agreement. The basic rule of subject-verb agreement is if the subject is singular, right? The verb should be singular, right? And if the subject is plural, right? The verb should be plural, right? The subject is singular, the verb should be singular. The subject is plural, the verb should be plural, right? Now let's take a look at some subject. Okay? For example, we have the chair. Okay, the chair is in the room. The chair is a singular subject, right? But we can say the chairs also. The chairs are in the room. The chair is a plural subject. Now I can take another subject like Ram. Ram is in the room. Ram is a singular subject. But if I say Ram and Shyam are in the room, that is a plural subject. Okay? So we can have singular and plural subject, right? Okay. Now we can identify singular and plural subject. For example, if I say boy, right? The boy is in the room. Now you can say that it's a singular subject. If I add s, then it becomes plural, right? If I have a noun like girl, the girl is in the room. It's a singular subject. If I add s, it forms a plural subject. What we're saying here is that nouns form the plural by taking the s. Okay. So we can identify singular and plural subject. How do we identify singular and plural verbs? Verbs, right? So we've seen quite a number of verbs, right? How do we identify singular and plural verbs? For that, the rule is, if the verb ends in the suffix s, if the verb ends in the suffix s, it is taken as singular, right? The verb ends in the suffix s, it is taken as singular. Now, how can we show this? We take a verb like write and add s, or we take a verb like read and add s, or we take an auxiliary verb like is, which already ends in s. We take a verb like has, which already ends in s. Okay, all these verbs end in s. Now I'll add a subject like he. So you see, he writes in a book. He reads a book. He is here. He has a book. The singular subject takes a singular verb. Okay? So verbs which end in s are singular. But not all verbs are singular. Right? So let's say verbs which do not end in the suffix s. Verbs which do not end in the suffix s, they can be singular or plural. Okay? Now what does this mean? We take a verb like have. Have is a verb. It ends in e. We'll take a verb like do. Do is a verb which ends in o. We'll take this, right? Write. We'll take write, right? It ends in e. Or we'll take read. Okay? Read ends in d. Now, I can say, I have a book. I do my homework. I write in a book. I read a book. But I can also say, they have books. They do their homework. They write in a book. They read books. So what do we see? A verb which does not end in s can be singular or plural. Right? Now, okay. So we can identify usually the singular and plural verbs. What do I mean by usually? See, in questions of subject-verb agreement, the quiz which we'll have to do in a while, the question will come like this. you will have a subject, right? Then you will have a verb. Okay. In questionable subject verb agreement, you will be given two choices among the verbs. Two choices. One of them will end in S. The other will not end in S. Now what happens? If the verb ends in S, it is singular. If the verb does not end in S, it is plural. Now this is understood. Let's suppose you solve 10 questions on subject verb agreement. All the 10 questions will have one ending in S, the other will not end in S. So you can identify singular and plural verbs. The question comes in this topic, what about the subject? For example, I said, right? Okay, if the noun ends in S, this is a noun, if it ends in S, it's plural. And if it's like this, then chair, chairs, Ram and Cham, you can identify. But let's suppose, okay, the question is knowledge of languages. Knowledge of languages. Now we're given the two choices, is or are good. Right? See, his knowledge of languages is or are good. Now, as I said, you can say that is singular, are is plural. Now, how will you choose? What is the real subject? Is it the word languages or is it something else? What do you think? See here, we're not talking about languages. Let's suppose there are, he knows 14 languages. Right? We're not talking about the languages, we're talking about his knowledge. Right? So, what happens? This seems to be a plural subject, but actually it is singular. So you will have to choose this. If you were to, this is called, this is error of proximity. Error of proximity. Proximity means something is close. You make an error. This subject is close to the verb. You make the error of choosing this as a subject. But actually, this is the subject. Farther on. Right? Okay. And so you see, questions come like this in this topic. Right? So, this is one of the things about this topic. And, here, about this. Nouns which end in S are plural. Right? Noun a boy ends in S is plural. A noun which ends in S is plural, but the verb which ends in S is singular. And it's like this, right? Something like that. The noun which ends in S is plural, but the verb which ends in S is singular. Okay? A noun which does not end in S is singular, but the verb which does not end in S is plural. Okay, it's like that. You should put it, right? Okay. So we'll solve questions, but let's take a bit of, actually I'm recapitulating here. We did this topic in the last class. Okay? We did this topic in the last class. Okay? So now this forms a very important part of this topic. Subject verb agreement. If there's an error in subject verb agreement, it's a major error. It's classified as a major error. As opposed to, let's say, an error in spelling, which is classified as a minor error. Or error in punctuation, capitalization. See, this RAM and this, are different. A RAM is something, you hit something. It's a RAM. Right? Or you can say ram is like a sheep, made sheep or something. Right? Errors, they make a big difference to the meaning of a sentence. See, ram. Okay. So you see, error identification. Okay. Now we'll add one more point. I'm recapitulating as I said. Right? So, here in the previous class, you remember, we did something about pronouns. Right? Pronouns can be subjects of sentences. See, you have a sentence, right? Pronouns can come here. So here, if it comes here, the very next word will be a verb. Right? The very next word will be a verb. So you have to make the pronoun agree with the verb. Right? So we need to know what pronouns. So let's see again. Okay, we're talking about what? One very important group of pronouns called the personal pronouns. Because they are referred to person. So you see, the personal pronouns are I, you, he, she, they, we, you, they. These are the most common subject pronouns. Okay? No, we talk about case. Subjective, case, and objective. Subjective means it comes in the beginning. I have a book. You have a book. He has a book. She has a book. It has a day. We have books. All of you have books. They have books. Right? So you see, we divide these pronouns into two groups. Those which are singular, I is singular, you referring to one person singularly, she is singular, and those which are plural, right? So this is a characteristic. Number is a characteristic of pronouns also, right? Not only of nouns and verbs, also a characteristic of pronouns. Number, singular and plural. Now, the second characteristic we need to know is a person, right? Personal pronouns. Person means first person, second person, and third person. As you remember from your high school, first person, second person, and third person. Okay? You will not remember this, but this definition was also told to you in your, not high school, middle school. 5th standard, 6th standard. So what's the definition? Right? Definition of first person is person speaking. Right? Definition of first person is person speaking. The definition of second person is person spoken to. Right? And the definition of third person is person spoken of or above. Okay? Person spoken of or above. Okay. Now remember what these definitions have to do with the pronouns. See, there are two people speaking, A and B. A and B. Me and Vishnu are speaking. When I speak to Vishnu, I say, I refer to myself as I. The person speaking will always refer to himself as I. Whereas the person spoken to, in this case it's Vishnu, okay? So it is you. Person spoken to is referred to as you. Now suppose the third person Govind or Ram, right? He is the person spoken of or about. We refer to it as he. If it is a girl or if we say she, it's it, right? Now, and suppose instead of just me, okay, here, me and Vishnu, okay? So the person speaking to all of you, follow, plural forms. He is there, they are. Okay? Okay. So these are the subjective personal pronouns. First person, second person, and third person. Now, what's the relation to the previous topic, subject verb agreement? Right? So, you see, okay? Now, we take a verb like write. Okay? We take a verb like write. Now, let's go different subject. Say, I write. Right? You write. Right? But when it comes to he, she, it becomes right. Right? It becomes right. Similarly, we write, plural form, all of you write, and they write. Okay. Now, what's the use of a pronoun? What's the use of a pronoun? You know the definition of a pronoun is it's used instead of a noun. It's used instead of a noun. Instead of using my name, I'll say, instead of saying this, I'll say I. Instead of using your name, Vishnu this, Vishnu that, I'll say you. Right? Similarly. So these are pronouns. Now, what's the use of a pronoun? Let's suppose, we'll take that same example. Is knowledge. Okay? Of languages. Okay? Is or are good. Okay? Now, first thing, we identify this is the subject. Right? Now we want to understand which verb to use. So we substitute one of these pronouns. Is knowledge I? No. Is knowledge you? No. Is knowledge he? No. Is it she? Is it it? Yes, it is it. Right? Now, it is good. Right? So you see, it's a third person singular. See, third person singular subjects, or third person singular subjects, or third person singular subject, he, she, it. Take a verb which takes the S. Right? Now if I say, someone is there, go in, right? And then you know the answer, go in is there. Suppose someone, you will substitute E. Right? So, then let's say Ram and Sham, take that same example. I'm using that same example of past 5 years. Okay? Ram and Sham, right? So which pronoun will substitute? Will substitute for this subject, will substitute they. Right? So you see, you take any sentence you can think of. Any sentence you can think of. Once you identify the subject, you can substitute a pronoun. You can substitute a pronoun, and with that you can choose the verb, singular or plural. Right? You follow? Okay? So this is the use of pronouns, and how we can help you choose the right verb in questions of subject, verb, agreement. Right? Okay? Okay? Now, one more point about this. Okay? One more point about this, right, is the topic of subject verb agreement is limited to the simple present tense. Simple present tense. Now, you may remember, using that word may, right? You may remember that the simple present tense structure is verb plus S or ES. Right? Verb plus S or ES. You can use the same example. See? Write or write. Right? Read or reads. Okay? You can take any verb. Look, looks. Okay, even here. Move, moves. Watch, watches. Verb plus S or ES. So what does this structure mean? See? Without the S or ES, it's plural. With the S or ES, it becomes singular. It's limited to the simple present. This whole topic, subject verb agreement, is limited to the simple present tense. Okay? You can confirm for yourself. See, you see, you take a verb like wrote. Wrote is past tense. I wrote, you wrote, he, she wrote, we wrote, you wrote there. Whatever the subject, same verb. Right? Or you can take the future tense. Will write. Right? Will write. I will write, you will write, he, she will write, you will write, we will write, they will write. This doesn't change the form. Okay? Neither does this. So what happens is limited to the simple present. Okay? And that too, to make it even more clear, what happens? Only if the subject is he, she, it, then it becomes verb plus S or ES. Okay, only with the third person singular pronouns the verb takes the S. Okay? Only with the third person singular pronouns, not the third person plural. They do not take the S. Okay? Okay? So this is the all the theory. Now we'll have to solve the question. Shall we start?
It's recording.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to do a quiz on the topic we completed in the last class. In the last class, we did subject-verb agreement. We discussed the concept of subject-verb agreement, right? So, subject-verb agreement has to do with number, right? Number in grammar. Number means singular or plural, right? So, the number of a verb in a sentence. The number of a verb in a sentence. So, the basic rule of subject-verb agreement is that if the subject is singular, the verb should also be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb should be plural, right? So it means that singular subjects require singular verbs and plural subjects require plural verbs, right? Now, here we have the first question of the quiz, right? So this quiz is found on Google, right? If you type in subject verb agreement, quizzes, you'll get a number of results. The first result is this quiz. It's from the website grammarbook.com. Grammarbook.com. So it's a quiz on subject verb agreement. So this is the first question on that website, right? So what does the question say? Every one of the shirts has or have a green collar, right? Every one of the shirts has or have a green collar. Now, here you have two choices among the verbs, two choices between the verbs. The first verb is has. The second verb is have. So one of these is singular, the other is plural. Now, which one is singular, has or have? For that, I told you in the previous class, if the verb ends in S, then it is taken as singular. If the verb does not end in S, it's taken as plural. So has ends in S, so it is singular. Have is taken as plural, right? So one is a singular verb, the other is a plural verb. Now we have to decide about the subject. Is the subject singular or plural? So if you look at this question, you have this shirts. Shirts is plural. Let's suppose you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shirts, right? That is plural. But this word shirt is modified by every one, right? Every one of the shirts. Every one of the shirts. So what does it mean, every one? It means the 5 shirts are taken one at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 taken one at a time. The clue is in this word, one. One means one, singular. So, what does that mean, right? It means the subject is singular. Every one of the shirts taken one at a time. So it's a singular subject, so you'll have to choose a singular verb. So every one of the shirts has. Has is the answer to the question, right? So now I'll write down the second question on that website. It says, this singer, this singer, okay, along with along with others, okay, along with others, okay, play or plays the harmonica, the harmonica, okay. Now, you may know that the harmonica is a musical instrument which you play by putting it into your mouth and blowing, right? So a harmonica is a musical instrument. Now we have, let's look at the verbs. The verbs are play and plays. So the verb plays ends in S. So this is singular. Whereas the verb play does not end in S, it is plural. So we have to decide whether the subject is singular or plural to choose the verb, right? Now here, what do we have? We have this singer, right? This singer, and then we have this word, others. So you see, others is plural, but this singer is singular. Singular means one singer. Okay, now here we have a comma, two commas, one after singer, one after others. Now, how do we decide whether the subject is singular or plural? For that, what you need to remember is that a phrase like along with, okay, is called, it's called a connective, okay, connective. Now, uh, now, what happens when you have a connective? Let's look at some other connectives. Instead of along with, I can as well say together with, okay? This singer together with others, okay? Or yet another connective is the word with, right? So this singer with others play or plays the harmonica. Now, when you have a connective like this, and you have a pair of commas, one after the first subject. This is the first subject, and this is the second subject. When you have a sentence constructed like this, you have one subject, comma, connective, second subject, comma, then the verb will agree with this subject, the first subject. So this singer is singular, it's a singular subject. So the answer is plays. This singer, along with others, plays the harmonica. Okay? Uh, so, uh, okay. Now, we look at the third question. The third question. The third question says sandals and towels. Sandals and towels, okay, is or are essential for the beach. Okay, so you know we have a seashore, that's a beach. On the beach, sandals and towels are or is essential, right? So now again, we have two choices between the verbs. The first verb is, the second verb is are, right? So is ends in s, it is singular. Are does not end in s, it is plural, right? Now we have to decide whether sandals and towels is singular or plural. Now here, what do we have? In the previous question, we talked about connectives. Connectives are phrases like along with, together with, etc. Okay. But in this question, the third question, we don't have a connective, we have a conjunction. Okay. All of you remember what a conjunction is. A conjunction is a joining word, right? A conjunction is a joining word. So here we have a joining word like and. We have a conjunction and, right? So now, how does that, okay? Let's suppose we have two people going to the beach. Two people means there will be one, two, okay, three, four. There'll be two pairs of sandals. Two pairs of sandals. And we have one, two, right? Two towels. So what does it mean? It means one pair of sandals plus another pair of sandals plus one towel plus one towel. That makes it four. So four is what? Plural, right? It is greater than one. One is singular, but four is plural. So what does that make it? Sandals and towels is a plural subject. So the answer is are. So the answer is are, right? Now, this is a rule in grammar. It says that when you have two subjects joined by the conjunction and, two subjects joined by the conjunction and, the verb is plural, right? So let's suppose, to illustrate this, this is the same example I've been using for the past, 15, 20 years. So we have a subject like Ram. Then we have a conjunction like and. Then we have a second subject like Sham, right? So we have two subjects joined by the conjunction and. Now, the verb will come immediately after this, is or are here, right? So what does the rule say? When two subjects are joined by the conjunction and, the verb is plural. Ram and Sham are here. Okay? So here, for this question, we have sandals and towels are essential for the beach. Sandals and towels are essential for the beach. Right? Let's look at the next question. Okay, the fourth question. What does it say? It says the president, right? The president or the vice president, the president or the vice president, okay, is or are speaking, is or are speaking, okay? The president or the vice president is or are speaking, okay? Now, what is the rule for this, okay? Now, here we have a conjunction, or, right? Or is a conjunction. So is the pair of conjunctions either or. Then you have yet another pair of conjunctions, neither nor, right? So here, okay, the rule states when you have two subjects, okay, when you have two subjects joined by the conjunctions or either or neither nor. Here we have two subjects. One is this subject, the other is this subject, right? When you have two subjects joined by the conjunction or either or neither nor, the verb which comes here, the verb which comes here agrees with the nearer subject. So we call this subject as nearer, this as the farther subject. Okay? When two subjects are joined by the conjunctions either or, neither nor, or, the verb will agree with the nearer subject. So this is called the nearer subject, this is called the farther subject, right? So let's take one example. Let's say we have the teacher, right? Or the children, okay? Teacher or the children is or are here, right? Now, teacher or the children. Now, if you look at this subject, we see that teacher is singular, okay? Whereas children is plural. So the verb will agree with this one, children. So children is plural, so you will take are. You will choose are. Now, suppose you reverse this, right? Suppose I put the children here and the teacher here. Then what happens? The verb will agree with this. This will become is, right? So I'll repeat that rule. When we have two subjects joined by the conjunctions or either or, neither nor, the verb will agree with the nearer subject. So here in the fourth question, we have two subjects. One is the president. The second is the vice president. The conjunction is or. So here what happens, the verb will agree with this one, vice president. So vice president is singular, so the answer is, right? So the answer is, okay? Now, we will look at one or two more questions, okay? One or two more questions, because the time of the Zoom recording is limited, okay? The time of the Zoom recording is limited. So now we come to the fifth question. What does it say? It says either, okay, Kathy or Mari, okay, either Kathy or Mari, okay. The two choices among the verbs are pay or pays, okay, the employees, right? So we have two subjects joined by the conjunction either or. Okay, I'll read the question just to make it clear. The question says either Cassie or Mari pay or pays the employees, right? Now, here we have the conjunction either or. Then we have the two subjects, Cassie, Mari. These are the two subjects. Now, okay, Cassie is singular, it's the name of a lady. Mari is also singular, it's also the name of a lady. So we have two singular subjects joined by the conjunction either or. Now, as I said, the verb will agree with the nearer subject. So we have, what are the two choices between the verbs? One is pay, the other is pays. Pays ends in S, it is singular. Pay does not end in S, it is plural. So this is a singular subject, so the answer is pays. Right? Okay. Shanmugam, do we have time? Shanmugam? Hello? Hello, Shanmugam? Okay. So okay. It looks like we have time, so we'll go on to the next question, right? Uh, Next question. Okay. Next question. Just a minute, Shanmugam. I'll just do one more question. Okay. So the sixth question is either, okay, the sculpture, sculpture or the paintings, either the sculpture or the paintings. The two choices between the verbs are is or are here. Okay. Now, here, okay, let's look at the verbs first. The first verb is. The second verb is are. Is ends in S, so it is singular. Are does not end in S, it is plural, right? So we have the conjunction, a pair of conjunction, either or, okay? Now, then we have two subjects. One is the sculpture, the other is the paintings. The sculpture is a singular subject, whereas the paintings is a plural subject. So when you have two subjects joined by the conjunctions either or, the verb will agree with the nearer subject. The nearer subject is paintings. Paintings is plural. So the answer is are. Either the sculpture or the paintings are here. Okay. Now we'll look at one more. Okay. So the question is the the coat or the hats. The coat or the hats. The two choices among between the verbs are is or are in the closet. Okay, a closet is a cupboard, right? So, okay, so here if let's look at the verbs first. Is and are the two verbs. Is ends in S, so it is singular. Okay, are is the plural verb, right? I told you that in all the questions on subject verb agreement, one of the verbs will end in S, the other will not end in S, right? So the verb which ends in S is singular, the verb which does not end in S is plural, right? So here what do we have? The coat or the hats, okay? In this, or is the conjunction. And the two subjects are the coat and the hats. Between these, coat is singular and hats is plural. So when you have two subjects joined by the conjunction or, the verb will agree with the nearer subject. The nearer subject is hats. Hats is plural. So R is the answer, right? R is the answer. Now, next, the eighth question. Now here we have a variation. It says neither, okay, she nor I. Neither she nor I. There are three choices. One is, one is, the other is am, the third is are. Okay? Neither he nor I is, am, or are getting the lunch. Okay? So here we have three choices. Neither he, she, nor I is, am, or are getting the lunch. So here what do we have? We have two subjects, she and I. And the conjunction is neither nor. Okay? Pair of conjunction is neither nor. So the verb will agree with the nearer subject. I is the nearer subject to the verb. So will we say I is? No. Will we say I are? No. Will we say I am? Yes. So am is the answer. Neither she nor I am getting the lunch. Okay. Now, okay. So next, we have the next question. Each of the dancers, each of the dancers, okay, it says spin or spins uh, brilliantly, right? Brilliantly, right? Each of the dancers spin or spins brilliantly. You know, dancers spin, okay? They spin brilliantly. Now, here, what about this? So let's look at the verbs first. One is spin, the other is spins. So spins is a plural. Spins is a singular verb. Spin is a plural verb. So we have to decide whether the subject is singular or plural, right? So here we have the word dancers. Okay, dancers is plural, but it's modified by each, right? Now, how does the word each modify? So let's suppose you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 dancers. When you say each of the dancers, you mean one at a time. One at a time. Okay? So the subject is singular. So the answer is spins. Each of the dancers spins brilliantly. Okay? Uh, next. Okay? Ninth, 10th question. Right? 10th question says mustard greens. Okay? Mustard greens is or are my favorite, my favorite vegetable. Right? Mustard greens is or are my favorite vegetable. So mustard greens are like something like, mustard. Okay, that is menisu in Kannada. So anyway, mustard greens is a plural subject. So the verb is are. The answer is are because the other verb is emptiness. It is singular. Okay. Mustard greens are my favorite vegetable. Right. So the very last question of this quiz. Okay. Shanmugam, are you there?
So yes, sir.
Okay, just one more question, then we'll have to stop. Okay.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So the very last question, it says everybody at the party, everybody at the party, okay, was or were enjoying the food. Okay. Okay. Everybody at the party was or were enjoying the food. So here, let's look at the verbs first. The two verbs are was and were. So was ends in S, it is singular, were is taken as plural. So we have to decide whether the subject is singular or plural. Now, here the subject is everybody everybody. Now, what does that mean? Let's suppose there are 10 people at the party. Okay, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10 people at the party. When we say everybody, it means the whole group together as one. Okay, everybody means everyone together as one. So it becomes singular. So when we have everybody, it means it's a singular subject. So the answer is was. Okay. Uh, so that is it for this episode of Subject Verb Agreement. Shanmugam, hello.
Yes, sir.
Can you stop the recording, please?
Yeah, okay.
Can you stop the recording? Okay. And, okay.
Hello guys, welcome to a brand new episode of Boring Times with the Board Guy. This is season 3, episode 3, and again I'm back with my frequent co-host Sundar sir. So today we're going to do an educational topic that is changing the voice of a sentence, that is from passive to active or active to passive. And so when you have a great English teacher like Sundar sir, then I don't have any like a job here in this episode to make to explain it to you. So he'll only do all the most of the work. I'll just ask him questions later on, and so I'll just hand it over to him. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nishala. Um, Actually, I'm glad to be back on the podcast. I was just giving a bit of, respite for all the podcasts because Nishala was busy with his admissions to the undergraduate college, and he has actually got it in engineering college, right, Nishala?
Yes, sir.
So we're just waiting for those formalities to, you know, be done with. So now we're back with this podcast, and this is quite an interesting topic in grammar, that is changing the voice of a sentence. Usually, questions will come in the English language papers of competitive exams and even in the PU course and various other exams. So changing the voice means we have to change the sentence from active to passive voice or from passive to active voice. So that's what we're doing today. Okay. So first things first, we have the word voice. Now, the word voice in grammar refers to the verb in a sentence. Okay, I'll repeat that. The word voice in grammar refers to the verb in a sentence. So, to understand how to change the voice of the verb in a sentence, we need to a bit of background material. Okay. So I have to apologize if you do not understand my handwriting. At least I hope that my explanation will be clear enough. And to continue, the background material is we need to know about verbs and pronouns. Now, verbs and pronouns are two parts of speech. First, we will take up pronouns. Okay. Pronouns are words used instead of a noun. That is the definition of a pronoun. Pronouns are words used instead of a noun. So pronouns are divided into several groups. They are divided into 7 or 8 groups, and we need to know about 2 of these groups. two of these groups. The first group is called the personal pronouns. The second group is called the possessive pronouns. So first we'll take up the personal pronouns, right? The personal pronouns, I've listed them out here. The personal pronouns are I, me, you, he, him, she, her, it, we, us, you, they, them. Now, pronouns have three characteristics. First is the person, second is the number, third is the case. So, by person we mean first person, second person, or third person. So, I have listed them out in this tabular column. I and me belong to the first person, you belongs to the second person, and this group at the bottom belongs to the third person. Now we'll see what we mean by first person, second person, and third person. Let us look at the two other characteristics of a pronoun. The second characteristic of a pronoun is a number. Number in grammar means singular or plural. Singular means one, plural means more than one. Okay, that's what we mean by number. And the third characteristic of a pronoun is the case, subjective or objective. Okay, subjective case means that the pronoun comes in the beginning of a sentence, and the objective case means it comes at the end of a sentence, in the object part of a sentence. So let's see how these three definitions apply to these pronouns. So first we'll take up the first person pronoun I. Here I written the definition of the persons. The first person is defined as the person speaking. The second person is defined as the person spoken to. And the third person is defined as a person spoken of. Now, what does this mean? See, if we have two people speaking, okay? We will call them A and B, okay? A and B are speaking to each other. Now, whenever A refers to himself, he refers to himself as I. Person speaking will always refer to himself as I. B is the person spoken to. He is always referred to as you. So, and let's suppose there's another person C who may or may not be there. Now, A and B are speaking of C. So, C is referred to as he, right? If C is a girl, she'll be referred to as she, right? And so we have what? First person, second person, and third person. Now, it can be seen that I comes in the beginning of a sentence and me comes at the end of a sentence. So we say that I is in the subjective case and me is in the objective case. For example, I have a book, the book belongs to me. Okay? You have a book, the book belongs to you. He has a book, the book belongs to him. She has a book, the book belongs to her. It has a tail, the tail belongs to it. We're talking about a dog. So we see that this group of pronouns here are all singular. They all refer to one. This group of pronouns on the right are the plural forms of the first person. So we say, let's suppose, okay, we have two people speaking. A and B are speaking to C and D. Now, A and B are speaking to C and D, say we. They refer to themselves as we. So we is the first person plural. And now, C and D are referred to as both of you. So you is plural, right? Let's suppose they're talking about two people, E and F. And E and F are referred to by A and B as they, right? So we have the third person pronouns, right? Plural forms, okay? Now, those are the subject. How do we understand case? See, we have books, the books belong to us, All of you have books, the books belong to all of you. They have books, the books belong to them. So we have subjective and objective case of the personal pronouns, plural forms. Okay? Now, see, these words, they're quite, they're well known. See, I, me, you, he, him, she, her, it. Okay, all these are well known. We, us, you, they, them. So all we need to know is I will change to me and me will change to I. Okay, they both refer to the same person, and he and him also refer to the same person, right? So now with that in mind, okay, let us look at the possessive forms, right? Possessives, as you know. So they are mine, your, yours, his, her, hers, its. Right? Now, how do we understand the possessives? By possessive, the word possessive actually means ownership, right? So we can form sentences like this. I have a book, the book belongs to me. It is my book, the book is mine. You have a book, the book belongs to you. It is your book, the book is yours. He has a book, the book belongs to him. It is his book, the book is his. She has a book, the book belongs to her. It is her book, the book is hers. It has a tail, the tail belongs to it. It's its tail, the tail is its. We have books, the books belong to us. They are our books, the books are ours. All of you have books, the books belong to all of you. They are your books, the books are yours. They have books, the books belong to them. They're their books, the books are theirs. So we have the first person, second person, third person, singular and plural forms of the possessive. So we need to know about these two categories of pronouns. Next, we'll look at the verbs. Okay, verbs, as is well known, they are words of action, right? Now, the whole group of verbs divided into two groups: main verbs and auxiliary verbs, right? Main verbs are sit, stand, walk, talk, etc. Now, sit is an action, stand is an action, walk is an action, talk is an action. All these verbs are action words. They have meaning, right? Main verbs have meaning. Let's look at the auxiliaries. Auxiliaries are divided into two: primary and modal. The primary auxiliaries are forms of have, do, and be. Now, next we have the modal auxiliaries. The modal auxiliaries are can, could, will, would, shall, should, may, might, and must, need, ought to, and dare. That's DARE. Okay. So I'll repeat the modal auxiliaries: can, could, will, would, shall, should, may, might, must, need, ought to, and dare. These are called the modal auxiliaries. Now, verbs have two characteristics. One is tense, the other is number. Now, if I say sit, the past tense of sit is sat. If I say stand, the past tense of stand is stood. If I say walk, the past tense of walk is walked. So the main verbs have present and past tenses. The primary auxiliaries being verbs, they also have tense. If I say he is here, it is present tense. He was here, it is past tense. So by forming simple sentences, they are, they were. Okay? I do, he did. I have, I had. I am, I was. By forming simple sentences, we can understand the present and past tenses of the primary auxiliaries. Okay? Now, the second characteristic of a verb we need to understand is the number. Number is the number of a verb is a topic in subject-verb agreement. That's a chapter, subject-verb agreement. So subjects and verbs, they're parts of sentences. right? So we have two sentences here. I sit, Ram runs. They're very simple sentences, right? I sit, Ram runs. So they're sentences because they make complete sense, right? So we see that in the first sentence, I is the subject, and in the second sentence, Ram is the subject. So subjects can be nouns or pronouns. Ram is a noun and I is a pronoun. Subjects can be nouns or pronouns. Now verbs. Just now we saw verbs. Verbs are divided, as I said, into main verbs, auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs are divided into primary and modal. So we have the primary auxiliaries and the modal auxiliaries and the main verbs. Okay. Now, what do we mean by agreement? By agreement, we mean only one thing. The subject is singular, the verb should be singular. The subject is plural, the verb should be plural. Right? So the rule of subject-verb agreement is verbs agree with the subject in number. Okay, singular subject requires a singular verb, plural subject requires a plural verb. So we have the chair, that is a singular subject. The chairs, that is a plural subject. Ram is a singular subject. Ram and Sham is a plural subject. Now, what about verbs? How do we can identify singular and plural subjects? How do we identify singular and plural verbs? So if the verb ends in S, it is usually singular. Okay? So let's look at some verbs which end in S. Is ends in S. Has ends in S. Does ends in S. Reads ends in S. Writes. So we have a number of verbs which can end in S. Now, if I put a subject like he and form sentence like he is here, he has a book, he does his work, he reads a book, he writes a book, right? So we have a singular subject and a singular verb. So these are, okay? So verbs which end in S are usually singular. But if the verb does not end in S, it can be singular or plural. So let's look at some verbs which do not end in S. Have ends in E, do ends in O, write ends in E, read ends in D, look ends in K. So I can say I have a book, but I can say they have books. I do my homework, they do the homework. I write in a book, they write in a book. I read a book, they read a book. So we see that if the verbs do not end in S, they can be singular or plural. Okay? Now, another characteristic of verbs that we need to understand is the tense of a verb. Okay? So we have four forms of a verb. Okay? So we have the present tense form, the past tense form, the present participle form, also known as the ing form, and the past participle form. Okay? If we add ing to any verb, except the modal auxiliaries, we get the present participle. So, for example, if I say sit, sitting, stand, standing, walk, walking, okay? And we can also add the ing to the primary auxiliaries. Being, doing, and having are the present participle forms of the primary auxiliary. But we cannot have the present participle form of the modal auxiliary. Canning, shoulding, musting are not words, right? So the present participle form, we can form it for any verb except the modal auxiliary. And the past participle form ends in D, ED, N, EN, or T. That is the spelling of the verb, the past participle form of the verb. It ends in D, ED, N, EN, or T. These are the five common endings of the past participle. So here I have written a number of verbs, right, in the four forms. So we say move is in the present tense, moved is in the past tense, moving is the present participle, and moved is the past participle, adding D. Talk is in the present tense, talked is in the past tense, talking is the present participle, talked is the past participle. So we say speak is in the present tense, spoke is in the past tense, speaking is the present participle, spoken is the past participle. So we're adding N. We're adding N. Similarly, we can say write, wrote, writing, written. We're adding en. Or learn, learned, learning, learned. We're adding t. So we have the four forms of the verb, and I've also written down the four forms of the primary voice. So we say is, am, are, have, has, do, does are the present tense forms of the primary voice. Was, were, had, and did are the past tense forms. Being, doing, and having are the present participle forms, and been, had, and done are the past participle forms of the primary auxiliaries. So these are the four forms of a verb. Now we come to the tenses. So each of the three tenses, present, past, and future, has four forms. Each has a simple form, the continuous form, the perfect form, and the perfect continuous form. So we have simple present, present continuous, present perfect, continuous. And we can also have simple past, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. Then we have simple future, future continuous, future perfect, and future perfect continuous. So we have four forms of the verb and three tenses. So that makes it a total of 12. So what I've done here is I've written down the sentences, right? Sentences in each of the tenses, right? So see, first we'll take up the present continuous tense. Present continuous means the action is going on continuously in the present. Okay? So the example sentences are I am watching TV now, he is watching TV now, they are watching TV now. So action is going on continuously in the present. So we can draw a timeline like this. So we have a line, okay? This goes off into the future, this goes off into the past, the present. This is the present continuous. Action is going on continuously in the present. Now, if we look at the verbs, okay, we have these three, is, am, or are. Is, am, or are. Plus watch is the main verb to which we added ing. So is, am, or are plus verb plus ing. Though that is called the structure of the present continuous, right? Structure of the present continuous, right? So next we have example sentences in the simple present. I move the chair, he moves the chair. I watch TV, he watches TV. So to the main verb move, we've added s. To the main verb watch, we added es. So the structure becomes verb plus s or es. Verb plus s or es. This is the structure of the simple present. Okay. Now, present perfect. What does the name of the tense indicate? We see, I'll draw a timeline like this. This goes off into the future. This goes off into the past, the present moment. The action started in the past. At the present, it is over perfectly. That is the present perfect. So I have watched TV and he has watched TV are the example sentences. So I can ask a question like, what has he done all evening? He has watched TV all evening. Now it's 9 o'clock. He started watching TV at 6. At 9, the action is over perfectly. At 9, the action is over perfectly. He has watched TV all evening. So what is the structure? We have or has plus watched. Watched is not the past tense. Watched is a past participle of watch. So we have or has plus past participle of the main verb. That is the structure of the present perfect tense. Next, we have the present perfect continuous. The example sentence are I have been watching TV, he has been watching TV. Now, what does this tense show? I'll draw a timeline to illustrate. So we have the future and the past, the present. Action began in the past, continues up to the present, and goes beyond. So, what has he been doing all evening? He has been watching TV all evening. So, he started watching TV at 6, at 9, he's still watching, at 10, he'll still be watching. So, he has been watching TV all evening. I have been watching TV all evening. So, we have or has plus been plus verb plus ing. This is the structure of the present perfect continuous. Next, we'll take up the past tense. Past tenses, simple past. I moved the chair, he watched TV. So we have move plus T, watch plus ed, verb plus T or ed. This is simple past. Okay. How do we illustrate the simple past? Like this, right? So we have a timeline like this. This is a simple past. Okay. Past continuous. I was watching TV, they were watching TV, right? So we have was or were plus verb plus ing. How do we indicate the past continuous? We draw a timeline like this. This is the past continuous, right? Now, past perfect, I had watched TV, he had watched TV. And on the timeline, it's illustrated like this. There's a moment in the past. There's one moment before that. This is the past perfect. Okay. So what is the structure of the past perfect? Had plus past participle. And what is the structure of the present past continuous? Is was or were plus verb plus ing. Okay. Now I'm going a little quick, I know, but you can always stop, rewind, and watch again if you have any doubts. Okay. So anyway, past perfect continuous okay. The example sentences are: I had been watching TV. He had been watching TV. So we have, this is the timeline. This is the moment now. This is the moment in the past. This is the past perfect continuous. So we have had plus been plus verb plus ing. Had plus been plus verb plus ing. This is the structure of the past perfect continuous. And next we have the simple future tenses. Simple future, I will watch TV, he shall watch TV. Will or shall plus verb. How do we indicate the simple future? This is the timeline. This is the present moment. This is the simple future. And the future continuous, I'll be watching TV, he shall be watching TV. So we have will or shall plus be plus verb plus ing. So we have this is the timeline, this is the future, this is the future continuous, right? And future perfect, I will have watched TV, he shall have watched TV. So we have will or shall plus have plus past participle. So we have the timeline which can be drawn like this. So we have, this is the future perfect, okay? This is the future perfect. And final tense is future perfect continuous. I will have been watching TV, he shall have been watching TV. So we have will or shall plus have plus been plus verb plus ing. Will or shall plus have plus been plus verb plus ing. How do we indicate this on the timeline? This is the timeline, this is the present moment, this is the future, this is the future perfect continuous, right? So now we come to active and passive voice. So as I said, the word voice in the sentence refers to the verb in a sentence. So right now, just now we saw all the tenses that the verb can be in. So let's look at some example sentences. I've written to look at the first set of sentences. John kicked the football. The football was kicked by John. So if we look at these two sentences, there is no change in meaning. They both mean the same, yet they are different. So we say that this sentence, John kicked the football, is an active voice, whereas the second sentence, this sentence, the football was kicked by John, is in passive voice. Now, what do we mean by active voice? Active voice means we have the subject, John, if the subject does some action. John, what is action John is doing? He kicked the football. The subject does some action, it is in active voice. On the other hand, what do we mean by passive voice? Now, here we have the football. Football is the subject. Football is passive. It is acted upon. So if the subject is passive, it is in the passive voice. So John kicked the football. The football was kicked by John. Now, what are the changes we made? We made subject into object, object into subject. And the verb kicked, verb kicked. Kicked is in the simple past tense, verb plus ed. Kicked becomes was kicked. So that means the general structure of the passive is be plus past participle. The be forms, remember, are is, am, are, was, were, being, and been, and the past participle form of the main verb. So we have this is in the past tense, so was is in the past tense. The football was kicked by John. Be plus past participle. So before the object we add by, the preposition by. Now let's look at another set. John kicked the footballs. The footballs were kicked by John. So here we have what? John kicked the footballs. Footballs is plural. So here we have football. Football is singular, so we use was. A verb which ends in S is singular. But here we have footballs. Footballs were kicked by John. So where is shows the plural. Again, kicked is in the past tense. Be plus past participle were kicked. Okay. Now we'll change the tense. John kicks the football. Now this tense is simple present. Verb plus S. So, okay. Now if we change it to passive, the football is kicked by John. So you see, is in the present tense form of be. Remember, the general structure of the passive is be plus past participle. So the football is kicked by John. Now, suppose we change it to plural. John kicks the footballs. The footballs are kicked by John. So the primary auxiliary is shows its singular, are shows its plural, right? So is ends in S, it's singular, are does not end in S, it is plural. So next we'll look at the other tenses. John is kicking the football. Okay. John is kicking the football. The football is being kicked by John. And so you see, this is the present continuous. Be is plus verb plus ing. And so the ing form shows the continuity of the action. So the football is being kicked in the passive. Being shows the continuity of the action. John is kicking the footballs. Now it becomes plural. The footballs are being kicked by John. So these are the singular and plural forms of the present continuous. John has kicked the football. The football has been kicked by John. So this is the present perfect, okay? Singular. John has kicked the football. The football has been kicked by John. So has shows it singular. The plural form, John has kicked the footballs. The footballs have been kicked by John. So have shows its plural. So this is the present perfect plural passive. Okay? John will kick the football or footballs. The football or footballs will be kicked by John. This is the passive, this is active. So we have be plus past participle for the simple future tense. Will plus verb. Okay? John will be kicking the football or footballs. The football or footballs will be being kicked by John. So this is the future continuous active voice, future continuous passive voice. Finally, we have John will have kicked the football. The football will have been kicked by John. So this is the future perfect, and the future perfect passive is will have been plus past participle. So we see we cannot have the passive form for the perfect continuous tenses. For example, John has been kicking the football. The football has been being kicked by John, which is somewhat of involved. So we cannot really have any passive voice for the perfect continuous tense. So here I have written the steps for changing active to passive. Interchange subject and object. Put the verb into be plus past participle. Put by before the object in the passive tense. So for changing from passive to active, we reverse this. Remove the be form. Observe the tense and change it to the active. So we will answer one or two questions. Hello,
Sir, shall I ask you the questions? Sir, your voice is not audible. Hello, sir.
Hello, Nishala.
Ask the
Yeah, tell me, ask me one or two questions. So anyway, this may be a continuity of that
video.
previous
Yes.
episode.
Yes, sir. So
Yeah,
Prashant is going to present him with a sports car.
Prashant
Is
is
going to
going to present him
with a sports car.
with a sports car. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
this is a sentence. Now, first we'll have to identify the verb phrase. So the verb phrase is going to present. Okay. Now, is going to present. It is of the form is, which is a be form, is, am, or are, plus going to, plus verb. So this is a form of the future, right? Now, how are we going to change this into the passive? So first we have to identify the subject and the object. The subject of this sentence is in active voice because the subject Prashant is doing some action. He is going to present him a sports car. So this is in active voice. Okay. Now, first step is we have to identify the subject and object. So Prashant is a subject, and we can take him as the object. Okay. So now we did pronouns, right? So him is in the objective case. If it comes to the beginning of the sentence, it will become he. Okay. Now, how are we going to change it? I have not explained this in those tenses, but I'm going to write it down. He is going. Hello, everybody. Today I want to do a short illustrative video on my method, a method of reading comprehension for science textbooks. So, the textbook we're going to choose is the second PU statistics textbook, which is found on Google. In the introduction to that textbook, we have the revision of formulae used in first PU. So here in the revision it says, for raw data, the mean x and the standard deviation sigma are calculated by the formulae x is equal to sigma x by n and sigma is equal to square root of sigma x squared by n minus sigma x by n whole squared, where x is the observation and n is the number of observations. So what does this mean? So according to the method of reading comprehension for science textbook, we have to understand the meaning of the following terms. We have to understand the meaning of raw data. We have to understand the meaning of raw data. We have to understand the meaning of mean. And we have to understand the meaning of standard deviation before we apply this formula. So if we look up these terms on Google, we get the following. Raw data. Raw data is the data that has been collected directly from a primary source of data that is not processed by anyone. Okay? So raw data is the data that has been collected directly from a primary source. The primary source can be an experiment in a lab, it can be something done in real life like that. So raw data is the data collected directly from a primary source. The second definition is that of mean. Mean is the average or the most common value in a collection of numbers. Example, if we have the numbers 2, 4 and 6, the mean is 2 plus 4 plus 6 by 3. So 2 plus 4 plus 6 is 12 and the number of observations is 3. So 12 by 3 is equal to 4. 4 is the mean. That is the average value of these three numbers. Now, third definition is that of standard deviation. The standard deviation is a measure of the amount of variation of a random variable expected about its mean. So, we have a mean. We have a mean like the number 4. Standard deviation is the amount of variation. It can either increase or it can decrease. So the two extreme values about which the mean value can change. That is the standard deviation. I'll read that definition again. The standard deviation is a measure of the amount of variation of a random variable expected about its mean. So it's the amount of variation expected about its mean. So let us take two examples. So let us take the above data 2, 4 and 6 and calculate the standard deviation and the mean. Mean is already been calculated, is 4. So standard deviation. Now n is the number of observations. N is 1, 2, 3. N is number of observations is 3. Now we draw a tabular column. X 2, 4, 6 is the raw data. Sigma x is the sum of these three. So sigma x is equal to 12. X squared, 2 squared is 4, 4 squared is 16, 6 squared is 36. So sigma x squared is the sum of 14 plus 6 plus 36, that is equal to 56. Now sigma is given, the standard deviation is given by the formula sigma x squared by n minus sigma x by n whole squared square root. Right? So substituting the formula sigma x squared is 56, n is equal to 3. Sigma x is equal to 12, n is equal to 3. 56 by 3 minus 12 by 3 whole squared. So that gives a value of 1.63, right? 1.63. Now, what does that mean? Standard deviation is 1.63. Okay. Now, the mean is 4. 4 plus 1.63 is approximately equal to 5.6 is equal to 6. Right? So 6 is the highest value of the observed data. So, and then 4 minus 1.63 is equal to 2.37, that is approximately equal to 2. Right? So 2 is the lower value of the data. So 1.63 is the standard deviation. The data varies between 6 and 2 by the value of 1.63. Right? That is what it means. Now, let us take another set of raw data from Google. If we search for tabular columns for experiments in physics, we get the following. The deflection of a needle of a measuring instrument in a physics experiment is as follows. So these are the deflections of a needle of a measuring instrument for an experiment in physics. The deflections are 10, 6, 20 and 26. So here this is the raw data 10, 6, 20 and 26. Now we have to calculate the mean and the standard deviation. The number of observations is 4. Let us calculate the mean and the standard deviation of the measurements. N is equal to 4. N is equal to 4, that is equal to number of observations. So we'll draw the tabular column. X is 10, 6, 20, 26. Sum of 10 plus 6 plus 20 plus 26 is equal to 62. Sigma x is equal to 62. Sigma x squared, square of 10 is 100, square of 6 is 36, square of 20 is 400, square of 26 is 676. Sigma x squared is equal to 1212. Now, this is the mean. Mean is equal to sigma x by n. Sigma x is 62 by 4, that is equal to 18. So this is the average value of the measurements. Now, standard deviation is equal given by the formula the square root of sigma x squared by n minus sigma x by n whole squared. So substituting the values, we get 1212, that is the value of sigma x squared divided by 4 minus 62 divided by 4 whole squared. So we get an approximate value of 7.9, which is approximately equal to 8. Okay. Now, according to the definition of standard deviation, sigma is the amount of variation of a random variable expected about its mean. So the mean is 18. 18 plus 8 is equal to 26. 18 minus 8 is equal to 10. So we have the extreme values of 26 and 10. So the standard deviation is 8. So we have applied the formula for mean and standard deviation, and the values fit the definitions given in the dictionary. Thank you. Hello everybody. Today we're going to do quite a special exercise. Okay. So today the chapter we're going to cover is called dictionary work. Right? Dictionary work deals with the definitions of words in a dictionary. Right? So the word we're going to define is this word, which is be. The word be is called a primary auxiliary verb. Right? And so it is actually a verb. And these are the various definitions of the word be. Now, the word be has 7 different forms. Right? 7 different forms. The 7 different forms are is, am, are, was, were, being, and being. These are the 7 different forms of the primary auxiliary verb be. And these definitions, all these definitions, are taken from this dictionary, right? This dictionary called Merriam-Webster Online. So all these definitions are taken from the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, right? So now here what we're going to do is my student Chaitra is going to explain what each of these definitions means, and she's going to give the word, right? For example, the definition past tense, first and third person singular. She's going to give the word. She's going to give the word, and she's going to narrate an example sentence for each word.
Hi everyone. Today I am going to explain regarding a definition of be form, which is primary auxiliary verb. First definition is past tense, first and third person singular is was. Example sentence is I was going, he, she, it was there. Past tense second person singular is were. Example sentence
Can you explain what you mean by the subjunctive, please?
So subjective,
Singular subject.
singular subject, plural verb. This is singular subject. Plural verb.
Illustrating this, what do you mean by singular subject and plural verb?
This is singular subject. I, she, he, it. And plural verb is verb.
So, would I be right to say that if I were rich is the subjunctive case?
Yeah, if I were rich.
Is it the subjunctive?
Sir, one note I have. Is this singular can become plural subject?
Then it won't be in the subjunctive case.
It would be the subjective case if it becomes if they were
It's not in the subjunctive case.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to do the next, that is the last but one chapter in grammar for you, which is called linkers, or also known as conjunctions. Right? As you know, conjunctions, they join together two sentences or two parts of sentences. And link, they join or they link together two parts of a sentence. Now, what we should do is, to find out information about this, we go to Google search, right? Yes, all of you. You want? So, we go to Google search, type in conjunctions, and the very first result on the search results is this one, about Walden University. Now, here, what are we told on this website? Okay? So, see, first we're told about the basics of conjunctions. I'll read it. Conjunctions are parts of speech, right? They are one of the 8 parts of speech that connect words, phrases, clauses, or sentences, right? They connect together words, phrases. A phrase is a group of words, right? Clause or a sentence. We'll see what clauses are, right? There are 3 kinds of conjunctions. There are 3 kinds of conjunctions: coordinating, paired, and subordinate. So the 3 kinds of conjunctions are coordinating conjunctions, paired conjunctions which occur in pairs, and subordinating conjunctions. Okay? So first, you can scroll down to the bottom of the page where we have this group, which is called, okay, which is called subordinating conjunctions, right? Subordinating conjunctions. Okay. So these are called subordinating conjunctions. So what are subordinating conjunctions? First of all, what do you mean by subordinate? Who is a subordinate or what is a subordinate? You know, in any organization, you have leaders and subordinates, right? So the subordinates, they follow what the leader says, right? So here, the word subordinating means it follows, right? So now, subordinating conjunctions join the subordinate clause to a main clause, right? And establishes a relationship between the two, right? So here, what are we told? We're told about clauses, right? We're told about clauses. There are 2 types of clauses. One is called the subordinate clause, and the other is called the main clause, right? So, subordinating conjunctions join subordinate clause to a main clause. Now, what do we mean by a clause? So, for example, I can write, okay, I have a chain. I've used this example many times before, but still I use it again, right? The example is I have a chain. Now, this makes sense on its own. If I say I have a chain, you will know what it means. And you'll see that it's got a subject. The subject is I, right? And have a chain is called the predicate, right? Have a chain is called the predicate. Okay. In the predicate, have is the verb. Have is the verb, right? So these are the parts of the sentence. It's actually a sentence. So a sentence which has a subject and a verb which forms part of the predicate. A sentence which has a subject and a verb which forms part of the predicate is called what? It's called the main clause. It's called the main clause. Right? Now I'll write another main clause. Okay? The chain is made of rope. So this is the second main clause. As you can see, here you have the chain as the subject, is made of gold is the predicate, and is the verb. Right? So you have two main clauses. Now I'll join these two. Right? I will say, I have a chain, okay, that is made of gold. Right? Now, here I have joined those two sentences. So here you have, I have a chain. Now, this is a main clause. Okay. And the second part, that is made of gold. Now, that is also a clause. See, if you look at it, that refers to chain, right? So, that forms the subject of this clause. This is the predicate, and is the verb. So, you have a part of a sentence which has a subject and a verb, but if I come up to you and I say, that is made of gold, I come up to you and just say, that is made of gold, you will ask, what is made of gold? So this doesn't make complete sense. So it depends for its meaning on this. So this part is called a subordinate clause. That is made of gold is called a subordinate clause. And it depends for its meaning on the main clause. Right? So what do we have? That is a conjunction. Right? So that is called the subordinating conjunction. Right? So if you come back to that website, I'll read this definition again. Subordinating conjunctions join a subordinate clause to a main clause and establish a relationship between the two. So there is a relation between the main clause and the subordinate clause. Okay? There are many subordinating conjunctions, but here are some of the most common. Okay? So what are the most common subordinating conjunctions? After, although, as much as though, because, before, how, if, So you have a number of subordinating conjunctions which you can access on that website. Okay. So Next, we're told, right? So I hope you got this, right? Okay, so I'll erase this, right? I'll erase this. Okay? Okay. So, next we are told, there are two ways to structure a sentence using the subordinating conjunction. There are two ways to structure a sentence using the subordinating conjunction. Okay. The first structure is main clause plus subordinate clause. Main clause plus subordinate clause. Okay, so what are the examples? The first example is the teacher administered the test. The teacher administered the test after giving instructions. Right? The teacher administered the test after giving instructions. So, just now we saw that after is called the subordinating conjunction. Right? So, once again, what does the subordinating conjunction do? It shows a relationship between a main clause. So the main clause here is the teacher administered the test, right? That's the main clause. And the subordinate clause is after giving instructions, right? So after this linking or joining these two parts, right? So next, okay, so this is one example. This is one structure, main clause plus subordinate clause. Now, we got the second. Okay, sorry. So, the second structure is subordinate clause plus main clause, right? So this is structure one, main clause plus subordinate clause. Second one is subordinate clause plus main clause. What is the example given? Okay, after giving instructions, okay, the teacher, okay, administered the test. Okay? After giving instructions, the teacher administered the test. Right? So this is the second structure of a sentence. Right? So in both, you can see that after is the subordinating conjunction. Right? So now I will give another example. Right? I'll write another example. Right? Right? So, second example is an author must avoid bias if she wants to maintain a scholarly tone. Okay, so this is the example given. The subordinating conjunction is if, right? So, what is the main clause? The author must avoid bias. So, this is the main clause. Author must avoid bias. What does it mean? Author, an author writes a book. And the author can be biased. He can be partial to one point of view or the other. But ideally, what should an author do? He should avoid bias. He or she should avoid bias. Going for or against one point of view. Right? That is, you must have an impartial tone. So the author must avoid bias if she wants to maintain a scholarly tone. If the book has to look scholarly, she must avoid bias. Okay. So this is the sentence, and the subordinating convention is if. Now, what about this structure? If she wants to maintain a scholarly tone, if she wants to maintain a scholarly tone, the author must avoid bias. Right? Okay. So this is the same sentence with a different structure. So again you have the subordinating conjunction if. Right? So now, okay. On the website you can see other examples. Okay? So now we go on to the next part of the website. We go on to the next part of the website. It says, right? It says, right? That as a conjunction, the word that as a conjunction for noun clauses. Okay, that as a conjunction for noun clauses. What is this that? That is the word. Okay. So it says here, okay, you can see it. One important use of that. One important use of that is for embedding. Embedding means inserting a certain type of dependent clause. A certain type of dependent clause called a noun clause. Now what's a dependent clause? So just now we saw what? We saw subordinate clauses. Okay? Subordinate clauses depend for the meaning of the main clause. Subordinate clauses are also called dependent clauses. Right? So one important use of that is to embed. Embed means to insert a dependent clause called a noun clause into an independent clause. It has to join, it has to embed, it has to insert a certain type of noun dependent clause into an independent clause. Okay. So frequently such that clauses serve as the direct object of the reporting verb. Now, this is the rule. Let's look at the example. Okay. So here the example. I'll just clear the background. Okay, so the example is Smith, 2015, reported that more research was necessary. Right? So this is an example sentence. Now what do we have here? We have an author called Smith. The author wrote a book in the year 2015. It may have been a book or it may have been an article. In that book or article, okay, Smith reported, right? What did he report? That more research was necessary. And more research was necessary. Now what does it say here? It says one of the important uses of that, okay, is to embed. Embed means to insert, okay, a certain type of dependent clause called a noun clause. So this whole thing is called a noun clause. Now why is it called a noun clause? Because, see, if I say Ram has a book, the book, okay, belongs to Ram. Okay, Ram has a book, the book belongs to Ram. Here you have the two nouns. Here the noun comes in the beginning. It is in the subject part. Here the noun comes at the end. It is in the object part. So what is the function of a noun? The function of a noun is to come at the end or the beginning of a sentence. So here we have, okay, this is the noun. Research is a noun. It comes at the end of the sentence, so it is a noun clause. Because of this, it's a subordinate clause. And one of the important functions is of the word that is to embed or insert noun clause into the independent clause. Okay? So now here the reporting verb is that. This is called what? This is the verb. Okay. So this is the dependent clause and that is the main clause. It's a subject. This is subject. Okay. So let's look at the second example. Right? Second example. Right? So the second example is the author's hypothesis. The authors hypothesize that there would be significant results. Okay? The authors hypothesize that there would be significant results. So what is the verb? The verb is hypothesize. Hypothesize means hypothesis is a theory. Right? So what is the authors? This is the subject. This is the verb. And this is the dependent clause because it comes at the end. So one of the main uses of that is to embed or insert a dependent clause into the rest of the sentence. Right? Okay. Okay, so that is one, that's some, okay, that's at the end. Now we'll go back. Right? So we'll look at subordinating conjunctions. Now we'll scroll up to what? To the paired conjunctions. Right? To the paired conjunctions. So, as you can guess, paired conjunctions come in pairs, right? So what does it say here? Paired conjunctions consist of two words or phrases that help to make a point or establish alternatives. So they help to make a point or establish alternatives. So which are some of the paired conjunctions we have? Both and, right? That is the first one. Okay? Not only, but also. Okay? Third is either or. Fourth is neither nor. Okay. So, what does it mean paired? If you come across, not only in the sentence, there must also be, but also later on. Okay? If you come across either, then usually it's followed by or. Right? Similarly, if you have neither, it's to be followed by or. As you can see, these two help to establish an alternative. Either this or that. These two help to establish an alternative, and this one helps to make a point. Okay? For example, the project will cost both time and money. Right? Helps to make a point. The project will cost both time and money. Right? So either they can establish alternatives or they can make points. Right? So that is about paired conjunctions. Right? That is about paired conjunctions. Okay. Now, so the last one on this website, last type of conjunction is called, okay, the coordinating conjunctions. Okay? Coordinating conjunctions. Now, you can remember the very most common coordinating conjunctions from this. Okay? So this is called what? This is called mnemonic device. Right? Mnemonic device. So it's actually an acronym. Okay? So it stands for and, nor, okay, but, or, yet, and so. Right? Fanboys is an acronym which stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Right? So I think these fairly common. For example, when to use and, right? You know when to use but. So whatever comes here, but which is the opposite, right? So this, nor, this and this, for gives a reason. This or this, yet, okay? All this happened, yet something else happened. All this happened, so something happened. This is a result. Right? This is a contrast. These two are contrast. Right? These two add. Add means good and or good. Right? So this, okay, this and adds, but or yet shows a contrast, so shows a result, or shows a alternative. So does not. Okay? So you can look at the examples on the website to understand how these coordinating conjunctions are used. Okay? Okay? So now you can just turn to page 120 of the PDF, page 120 of the PDF, right? And you'll see that we have an exercise on this. So this question will come for 5 marks, right? It will come for 5 marks. So I hope all of you are conversant enough with English to get all 5, right? Okay? So this together with adjectives and adverbs should give you 15, right? So, and then with all the lessons we've done, right? So we should be able to attend the exam. Okay? If you have any doubts, you can message me on the group. Okay? Thank you. This is the rest of them. Okay, shall we start? Okay. Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to do a chapter in grammar, which is there for you, which is and it's about grammar. It's about adjectives and adverbs. Now you may remember from your high school that adjectives and adverbs are 2 of the 8 parts of speech. The 8 parts of speech are noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, adjective, conjunction, preposition, and interjection. Out of these 8, we have to study 2 of them, that is adjectives and adverbs. Right? Now, to understand what an adjective is, we have to know what a noun is. Noun, as you remember, is a name of a person, place, animal, or thing. So the name of a person like Ram, Sham, Akbar, all those are names of persons. Places, New Delhi, New York, San Francisco, all these are names of places. So those are proper nouns, right? Then common nouns. Common nouns means they are names of that things have in common. For example, this is a table, that is a table, those are tables, these are tables, this is a table. Table, 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 they are common to all these objects, right? So table is a common noun. Similarly, boy is a common noun, girl is a common noun, calculator, wall, book, pen, pencil, bag, all these are common nouns, right? Any name which is used for things in common, they are called common nouns. Then we have collective nouns. Collective nouns are names of groups. A group of sheep is called a flock. A group of cows is called a herd. A group of ships is called a fleet. A group of people is called a crowd. Right? Then, so you have so many collective nouns, right? Then we have abstract nouns. Abstract means that which cannot be perceived by the 5 senses. Abstract means what? It cannot be seen, it cannot be touched, it cannot be heard, felt, it can be felt. So for example, happiness, sadness, courage, bravery, anxiety, worry, all these are abstract nouns. You cannot see them, you cannot touch them, you cannot hear them, but they are there. Right? These are abstract nouns. These are names of qualities. So those are the 4 types of nouns. Now, what is an adjective? An adjective adds meaning to a noun. It adds meaning to a noun. Let's take a noun, common noun like boy, B-O-Y, boy. We can say tall boy, young boy, intelligent boy, good boy. So all these words, tall, young, intelligent, good, they are adding meaning to the noun boy. They are all adjectives, right? The good boy, right? The intelligent boy. All these are adjectives, right? So now,
You know what a verb is. We've gone over verbs. So, for example, if you say is called a verb, right? The boy is good. Now, what do we see? The good boy, there, the adjective comes before the noun. Adjective comes before the noun, good boy. But you can say the boy is good, right? Okay, start. So the boy is good, right? Now what do we see there? The adjective is coming after the verb. Okay? So there are two positions of an adjective. One is before the noun, the other is after the verb. The intelligent boy, the boy is intelligent. Right? Now, that is one way of recognizing an adjective. Right? So you will be asked to identify adjectives in the sentence. So what we should do is we must be able to identify the nouns. Right? Usually the nouns will come before the adjectives will come before the nouns, right? Or after the verb, right? Another way you can identify an adjective is by the presence of articles. A good boy, the good boy, the young boy, an intelligent boy. See, the, a, and. If you see them and you see a noun, the word in between is usually an adjective, right? So that is one way you can identify adjectives, right? Then another way of identifying an adjective is by the presence of er or est in the word. See, tall, taller, tallest, young, younger, youngest, quick, quicker, quickest. Now you see, quick is called a positive degree, okay, or fast. The car is fast, right? Fast. So fast is an adjective which describes a car. That car is faster. So when you have two things being compared, you have er. That car is fastest. When you have more than two things being compared, you have the superlative. So positive, comparative compares more than two, only two. Superlative compares more than two, right? So fast, faster, fastest. Positive, comparative, and superlative. Quick, quicker, quickest, right? Now, if you see er or est, that means you're able to identify the adjectives, right? Another way of identifying the adjectives is by using more or most. Okay, more intelligent, most intelligent. That boy is intelligent. Okay, so the final way of identifying adjective is by the presence of the suffixes. Suffixes mean OUS, ABLE, IBLE, like ordinal, copious. Okay, all these are the endings of adjectives, right? So we'll stop there.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to do the class. We're going to do a lesson on adverbs. Right. Now, before we start, we have to be sure of the definition of an adverb. Right. An adverb is a word which modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. It is a word which modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Right? This is the first definition of an adverb. Now, so we have to see what a verb is. Right? In a sentence, the action word is the verb. Right? A verb is defined as an action word. For example, if you say Rama kicked the football, Rama kicked the football. Kicked is the verb, right? Now, a word which modifies a verb. Rama quickly kicked the football. Now, the word quickly modifies the verb kicked. So, quickly is an adverb, right? Rama quickly kicked the football. Or you can say Rama slowly kicked the football. Now that's a word which modifies a verb. What is an adjective? Okay, an adverb also modifies an adjective. Now, an adjective is defined as a word which modifies a noun. Modifies a noun. For example, you have a noun like boy. The word boy can be modified by various adjectives like good boy, young boy, tall boy, intelligent boy. So all these good, young, tall, intelligent, they're all adjectives, right? So if you say Rama is a very good boy, now the adjective good is being modified by the adverb very. So an adverb also modifies an adjective, right? So an adverb, I'll repeat, is a word which modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. For example, if we take the first sentence, Rama quickly kicked the football, and we modify quickly with the word very. Rama very quickly kicked the football. There we have, okay, a word which is modifying another adverb, right? So this is the first definition of an adverb. It is a word which modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So, in order to identify, okay, an adjective, for example, in a sentence, you have to look for a common noun. Common noun like boy, girl, table, chair, okay, and you have to look before the noun. So that will be an adjective, and if it is a word which is modifying the adjective, that will be an adverb, right? So, and also as I said, you have to identify a verb. A verb is a word of action. Kicked, sat, ran, moved, etc. You have a number of verbs, okay? So if you have a verb which is modifying a verb, that will be an adverb. Now this is the first definition. An adverb is a word which modifies an adjective, an adverb, or a verb. Right? Now the second definition of an adverb is that it shows a time or a place. Time or a place. For example, the word now. Now shows a time. Okay? Then what about the place? Here is a place. Here shows a place. So here, there, now, there, today, that day. Okay, it shows a time or a place, right? Then the third definition of an adverb is that it ends in the suffix ly, ends in ly. Slowly, quickly. So you have a number of adverbs which end in ly. So these are the three definitions of an adverb, right? So let's look at some of the examples given in the textbook. It says the adverb. An adverb is a word which modifies the meaning of a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Consider the following sentences. It says Ramya reads quickly. So quickly is the adverb which modifies the verb reads. In the above sentence, Ramya quickly shows how or in what manner Ramya reads. That is, quickly modifies the verb reads. I hope you got that. Otherwise, you can refer to the PDF. Okay, page 90. Right? Ramya gave a very good answer. This is the second sentence. So, Ramya gave a very good answer. The common noun here is answer. Good modifies the common noun answer. Good is an adjective. Very good. Very is the adverb. Ramya gave a very good answer. Right? So very is the adverb. Ramya reads quite quickly. Right? So Ramya reads quite quickly. Now quickly is the adverb. Quite is the adverb which modifies the adverb. So these are the, this is the definition. It modifies a verb, an adjective or another adverb, right? So you can easily go through the material in the textbook, right? We have different types of adverbs, adverbs of time which show when. He came late, right? Came late. Late shows when he came. Again, you can apply that definition. Came is a verb, so late is the adverb. I go there daily, right? There is a place daily. Daily ends in ly. I shall now begin my work, right? Now begin modifies the verb shall begin, right? She met me yesterday. So it modifies, yesterday modifies met, it shows a time, right? So you have a number of sentences, different types of adverbs. I'll go through the headings of these different types of adverbs. Adverbs of time, adverbs of number, adverbs of place, adverbs of manner, adverbs of degree or quantity, adverbs of affirmation and negation. Affirmation means saying yes, negation means saying no, right? Adverbs of reason, interrogative adverbs, relative adverbs. So these are the 9 different types of adverbs. So you can go through the examples given in the PDF, and we can also work out some of the examples. We'll work out 5 examples from the exercises. So the first sentence is run fast, right? So there are only 2 words there. Run is a verb, so fast is the adverb. Bhima works hard, right? So here there are 3 words. Bhima works hard. So you can guess that Bhima is a proper noun, works is a verb, so hard will become the adverb, right? Try again, right? So try again. In this there are only 2 words. So try is a verb and again is the adverb. Come forward. Come is the verb, forward is the adverb. I saw her yesterday, right? So yesterday shows a time, so yesterday is the adverb. The secret is out, right? The secret is out, so the secret is a common noun, is a verb, there is a definite article. So out becomes the adverb, okay? The patient is much better, right? So better is the good, better, best. Those are the 3 those 3 degrees of good, better, best. Much modifies better. The patient is much better. Much is the question. Much is the adverb. Okay. So thank you. I hope you'll go through the material in the textbook. Thank you.